Hello everyone! Welcome to our channel. Welcome to you too, Professor.
Hello, Zainab.
Today's topic is avoiding emotional intimacy. I think people have been avoiding emotional intimacy in recent years.
Me too.
What are the reasons for this?
You've chosen a good topic because if you ask me, lately I've started to feel uncomfortable about this too. This issue of avoiding emotional intimacy has reached a somewhat disturbing level because it's one of the things I frequently encounter both in my sessions and in my readings. At its core, what this really means is that people often don't feel safe when they are with others or when they begin to get close to them. This feeling of not being safe isn't about physical danger, but rather about emotional vulnerability. People may worry about being judged because they frequently experience this in their own lives, and they also observe or hear about it a lot in their surroundings. They are exposed to it. Naturally, over the years, relationships have become somewhat toxic because of this. But actually, this is something that goes against our nature because even before the hunter-gatherer communities, we were already social beings, creatures who are born and raised within a community and who feel safe there. But this discomfort with emotional closeness has started to make people more distant from one another. In fact, this is somewhat of a challenge to our very nature. People no longer feel safe around other people in recent years. They think they are being used. The amygdala in the brain generates various anxieties. For example, someone may have had many serious relationships, invested a lot of effort and time, but in the end still ended up alone and fell into a deep sense of emptiness. In other words, it's a grieving process for them. By the way, I'm not just talking about grieving for a lover, spouse, or ex-spouse. This can also apply to our friends. The grieving process has been exhausting for them. And at the end of this process, it has turned into a trauma for them. And learning happens in the following way. No, I just don't want to get that close to people anymore. Because this not only requires a lot of effort and energy, but afterwards I end up feeling a huge emptiness. Now, actually, it's normal for things like this to happen. When people who are at the center of our lives leave, or when people who occupy a large part of our lives are no longer there, it's only natural that we feel empty. Because where are we supposed to direct the importance, value, or effort we used to devote to that person? To avoid this, we start to protect ourselves. But then what happens? Every choice we make comes with a price. Alright? In exchange for this price, we end up centering loneliness, having superficial relationships, and not feeling safe. So that's the price we pay.
If a person feels worthless,
Yes,
could it be that they stay away from others because they already assume the other person won't value them either?
of course, that's also the case in such situations. The thought of I'm not someone valuable enough for them to value me that much. And let me just say, most of the time, what's underlying that is this, again, is related to self-worth and self-esteem. I don't mean excessively valuing or attributing too much importance to oneself, because the person doesn't attribute even the necessary amount of value and importance to themselves and instead puts the other person on a pedestal. They end up feeling inadequate next to them. For example, in the sessions we conduct, there is an interpersonal sensitivity subscale in the symptom checklist 90 psychological symptom screening test that we use. In people like this, generally high or moderate levels of negative symptoms appear on that scale. This is something specific to individuals who feel inadequate when they compare themselves to others. That's what you're talking about. But that also has an effect, that's true. But usually, in both cases, the brain cannot feel safe. Naturally, as a result, even if the price paid is becoming isolated or experiencing emotions and relationships on a superficial level, they are willing to pay that price. I've just realized something. You know what it is? In other words, in order to live more balanced, it's actually necessary to have the right relationships. Now I understand people's good intentions. A few years ago, there was generally a belief or a way of thinking like this. If I put a lot of effort into the relationship, if I try really hard, if I'm very accommodating,
Yes.
then the relationship will be really good. But here's what I'm asking you. Why should the relationship be really good anyway? Let it go where it's meant to go in its own natural flow. You can't control exactly where it's going to end up. When you don't get return on the investments you've made, you end up feeling unhappy and insecure. Don't do this. Let it be. Relationships are, by nature, mutual. In other words, a relationship can't go anywhere if only one side is making all the effort. A relationship can only move forward if both sides are investing in it. Let both sides' own personalities and character traits determine where the relationship will go. We may not always be able to choose who we become close friends with. We give it a chance. Of course, we can be accommodating, but it's important to analyze the outcomes correctly. I hope this has been informative. There's really no need to be so afraid of other people. I mean, we can feel safe. We need to go with the flow and stay balanced. In fact, we sense it as a feeling, Zainab. Let me give you an example. It's like, I'm going to give a lot. This relationship has started to wear me out. Instead of immediately pulling away, just reduce the effort you're putting into the relationship a bit, Aslim. Give yourself a little chance to.
Yes.
There's no need to go to extremes. This relationship is tiring me out. It doesn't seem to work anymore. I've been encountering this quite often in recent years. Please leave a comment and let's meet below. Also, if there are topics you'd like us to talk about, we'd love to make videos about them and actually stay in constant interaction with you, our followers. Thank you for watching.
See you next time.